It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to our session dedicated to climate change and the energy industry. Let me first introduce to you the speakers and moderator of the session. There are 4 speakers in breakout session 4. Let me briefly introduce to you the speakers through the video clip on the screen.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Especially thank you for the picture, which I don't think looked like me, but that picture is better than I am, I think. And first of all, I like to congratulate on the 50th anniversary of the Seoul Economic Daily. That is obviously one of the most prestigious newspaper. And I'm especially impressed by this well-organized Seoul Forum that is designed to prepare for the next 100 years to come. And today I like to, I don't know how to move this, but okay. Oh, this way. Today I'd like to talk about briefly the background of the green growth, our new national vision and paradigm, and then focus on our clean energy strategy. Well, it was imperative for Korea to pursue a new path, a real change, that is green growth. Why? There were several critical reasons. First, energy security. Korea is a top 10 energy consumer in the world, and we are spending more than $100 every year to import energy, and most of them are fossil fuels. In every sense, Korea is not only energy sensitive, but also energy vulnerable. Second, climate impact. During the last 100 years, average temperature rise of Korea has been 2 times more than world average. You know, we used to have 4 seasons, but not anymore. It seems we only have 2 seasons, summer and winter. Its climate impact is really, really evident here in Korea. Last, but not least, economic slowdown since 1990s. What is worse is that we grow without jobs. Jobless growth is also happening, has been happening in Korea. That's why a new path was needed. And we believe that the path is green growth. To address these challenges, President Lee Myung-bak proclaimed the low-carbon green growth as a new vision for Korea. That was to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Republic of Korea. You know, in Korea, 60 means a lot. It means a completion of one life cycle and a new beginning of another life. So when a national leader like Mr. President said something when we celebrated the 60th anniversary of our country, it really meant a lot. If the paradigm of last 60 years was on economic growth or quantity-oriented growth. Then the paradigm for the next 60 years is quality-oriented, productivity-led green growth. The main philosophy of green growth, you can go green without undermining economic vitality. On the contrary, you can go green, you can get more jobs, new jobs, create industries by developing aggressively green industries and green technologies. That's the main spirit of green growth. Green growth is not just a simple environmental policy. It is not just an energy paradigm. It is about new civilization, which is preparing, saying goodbye, gradual saying goodbye to the old civilization that is fossil fuel dependent, that is energy over-consuming. So green growth is about new civilization. This kind of ambitious green growth vision is supported by these three pillars. One is national leadership. National leaders' vision with consistency creates momentum for change. Second pillar is obviously technology. Technology is the driver for transformation. And we are witnessing that evidence in everywhere. Third one is obviously people. Change should come from people. Without people's participation, we cannot achieve green growth. Without green habit embedded in people's mind and behavior, we cannot achieve green growth. So basically, these three pillars are really important to pursue green growth. Having said that, in these regards, Korea has somewhat distinctive, unique features. First is strong green leadership that is coming from President Lee Myung-bak himself. Mr. President organized a presidential committee for green growth. That committee is composed of every important decision maker in the government, and it is advised by excellent intellectual leaders in our society. And it is number one coordinating body to pursue green growth strategies. Second, the vision is being integrated into all sectors of the society. That's why we have various business councils. We have business council, we have technology council, we have finance council, we have a social group council. A lot of business council is already created. In sum, private-public partnership is the real key for the success of green growth. And thirdly, we believe we have a rather competitive industrial base for green growth. For instance, semiconductors, IT, auto, and shipbuilding, those things are all related to the green transformation. And I'm pleased that Samsung, Hyundai, LG, POSCO are now investing really aggressively in green sectors. And they are making great green transformation by themselves, turning to green industries. Recently, Samsung announced more than $200 billion investment in the decade. LG did that with almost the same amount. POSCO, 7 trillion won. The largest, one of the largest steel maker and thus the largest emitter is now transforming that company into low-carbon steel maker. That is happening due to the strong leadership, due to the people's participation, due to the partnership we pursue. But we know we have a long way to go. But I'm really pleased that big players in Korean business community are changing. Frequently, I'm asked, what is the difference between the sustainable development and green growth? Okay, we really in favor of sustainable development. But when we hear the notion of sustainable development, it sounds very good, but we don't know what to do. In that sense, green growth is a very action-oriented strategy for sustainable development. And in that regard, Korea is really trying to be action-oriented country. Having said that, we have laid a legislative foundation with the Framework Act on low-carbon green growth. That law was passed at the end of last year due to the bipartisan support in the National Assembly. That is quite rare in Korea. But we could get bipartisan support to pass the law. So we have a legal background for green growth. That is very, very important. Secondly, we have set up 5-year action plan to show our unchanging commitment. That 5-year action plan will be completed by the year of 2013. It means it will continue after the term of our government. And I hope next government make another 5-year action plan. And that's one of the reasons why we set up Global Green Growth Institute. That's we are trying to host a COP18. We like to make green growth as an international asset. We like to make our effort to be long-lasting. That's one of the parts to show our commitment. Mr. President usually say, green growth for us is not a plan B. It is just plan B. When you mention plan B, you have alternative. But Mr. President always says, we don't have any alternative. So we better call it just plan A. No change. When the global economic financial crisis hit in the world, many people worried that it would be inevitable to see a kind of withdrawal or retreat of green growth. But paradoxically, we moved more aggressively. By introducing stimulus package, we brought into green element. It was the future-oriented stimulus package called Green New Deal. And it saved our economy. It protected our jobs and even created jobs. Third, we firmly set the national midterm target for a greenhouse gas. 30% cut from its business as usual. You know, Korea is a non-Annex I country which has no legal obligation to address greenhouse reduction target. But we did it voluntarily and unilaterally without any condition. Why? Those 3 factors I mentioned. To save our land from climate impact, to make our energy situation secure, and to find a new engine of growth. We did it for us. And what makes us happy is we are doing that also for the world. Right. Fourth, we made it really clear that we will be investing at least 2% of our GDP into green sectors. That is going to be an iron law of our green budget. And with that, we are aggressively increasing our R&D money for green technology. While making all these progress, I like to emphasize again the importance of partnership. Government cannot do it alone. We need a participation from business community. We need participation from people, general public. And that's why we built several public-private dialogue channels. If I have to choose just one word to save our planet, I think that would be partnership. We need partnership between countries. We need partnership between private sectors and public sectors. We need partnership among companies, NGOs. So green partnership is really important. And I'm so pleased that we have such thought leaders are joining us to talk about the collaboration we need in this time. Now I'd like to talk about briefly our clean energy strategy. Without doubt, clean energy is at the heart of our green growth paradigm. First, clean energy can significantly reduce carbon emissions. And at the same time, clean energy will enhance energy security by reducing our dependence on fossil fuel. And even more importantly, clean energy is a key driver for economic growth and job creation. According to the many analyses, clean energy can double and even triple job creations compared to the conventional energy. And the global market for renewable energy is expected to grow more than 15% every year. We are witnessing huge immersion of renewable market. Having said that, I'd like to share our examples, a few examples of our clean energy strategy. First, let me talk about nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, at this moment, at this stage, the most realistic energy, clean energy we have. It emits the lowest level of CO2 compared to the level of fossil fuels, only 1 or 2%. Moreover, it has stable supply and cost. It is cost competitive compared with the conventional energy. And that's why global market for nuclear energy is promising, expanding, expecting another 300 new reactors by 2030. And Korea is performing very well in this market. For instance, recently a consortium led by the Korean Electric Power Corporation, KEPCO, won a $40 billion deal to build UAE nuclear power plant. That has a potential to create more than 100,000 jobs a year. Actually, recently I saw a recruitment advertisement by KEPCO, the Korea Electricity Corporation, that it is going to recruit more than 10,000 professionals for the coming decade. It is actually creating jobs. very good, modest jobs. But that's not enough. Now we are scaling up renewable energy. Korea's renewable energy market has been growing fast for the last 6 years, despite unfavorable natural environments and relatively high cost. Korea's renewable energy market has grown 80 times for the last 6 years, and the growth has driven by an increase in exports and generated new job opportunities, 70 times and 20-fold increase in 6 years, respectively. It was partly thanks to the policy initiatives such as a feed-in tariff, but feed-in tariff will be phased out or scaled down by 2012. Instead, Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS, which is more market-oriented measure, will be introduced to scale up market growth of renewable industry. For example, by the year of 2012, every electricity power station is required to use at least 2% of its energy as renewable energy. And by the year of 2020, every electricity power station is going to be required to use at least 10% of renewable energy for its electricity generation. And the government already set a renewable energy target of 11% by the year of 2030, which is a quite huge jump from 2.4% in 2007. And if that's not enough, we are going to review our national energy plan and then upgrade our target, if that's not enough, considering the development of technology also. And with these efforts, we are going to make our electricity much cleaner. Well, electricity itself is clean. But if we use fossil fuel to create electricity, you cannot call it green. By maximizing non-fossil fuel usage, we are trying to make a big transition to clean electricity. As of now, as you see in the slide, 65% of our electricity comes from fossil fuels. By 2050, however, it will be lowered to less than 30. We are determined to make clean electricity. And what is more, CCS is expected to play a key role in making clean energy. With the rapid technology development, CCS is turning out to be a cost-effective tool to achieve the deep emission cuts required to stabilize the climate. In this regard, G8 and G20 leaders are now taking global initiative to make CCS commercially available by 2020. Recently, Australia, one of the largest coal exporter in the world, set up Global Carbon Capture Storage Institute. That's one of the initiatives we need to make a collaboration with. And in line with this kind of initiative, Korea also has a plan to make a CCS development as one of the number one, as our priority for green technology. That will be made public next week. I'm afraid I cannot tell you in detail right now, but next week you will hear more about our strategy for CCS. And there are some more. We cannot miss smart grid, green car, LED. All these are related to clean energy and clean electricity. I'm afraid I running out of time, so I must skip this slide. Well, Korea wishes to make top 7, Global Green 7 or Quality 7 country by 2020. Can Korea really make it? The journey for green growth is really tough, we know. But I believe Korean people can make it. As you see in the slide, Korea is suffering environmental stress and vulnerability. But as you see also, we have a high capacity to adapt. If I may borrow some words of the articles written by Guardian, actually I had an interview with the Guardian reporter. The final sentence of that article was that if Korean people get a right direction and consensus, they usually move quickly, as was shown in the case of IT boom 10 years ago. Actually, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world. Now Korea became a kind of middle power, wishing to play a kind of bridging role between developed countries and developing countries. It happened only just 50 years. So we have a high hope that we can do it again. But Korea can do it alone? No, of course not, of course not. Climate change is a global challenge and thus requires global collaboration. That is why Korea wants to greatly enhance collaboration with the rest of the world. For example, for the 5 years to come, Korea will triple its ODA, Official Development Assistance, and major part of the ODA will be composed of green elements. And in line with that, Korea has 2 years ago launched a East Asia Climate Partnership, that is a $200 million grant to assist developing countries in the region addressing climate challenge. Thirdly, a few weeks ago, Korea has launched the Global Green Growth Institute. As I mentioned, climate challenge is a global challenge and thus require global collaboration. The spirit of Global Green Growth Institute is to give us an answer how you can go green while you can create the new opportunities of jobs and industries in a global scale. One of our colleagues, or the board member of that institute, Lord Nicholas Stern, told us that we are witnessing the second industrial revolution in this energy climate era. That's it. We should not miss it. Maybe if we look at the bright side of this era, we may find a new opportunities that is unprecedented. Well, people outside in the world are talking about climate finance. We are talking about Fast Start program, and even UK, UN is talking about $100 billion every year for climate change. It may sound like a burden, but if you look at the bright side, it will play a key role to create new green market. Lastly, instead of giving you a final remark, I'd like to share with you Mr. President's favorite saying. If you dream alone, it may end up with just a dream, but if we dream together, then the dream can come true. Thank you.
I want to share my general insight on greener growth strategy, and also I want to mention about how to promote investment in clean tech, and also I want to mention that POSCO's green growth business. At first, this is my just research result, not my research result. This is a general insight from OECD. To promote greener growth, we need endeavor in 5 aspects. Remove barriers to greener growth, and to promote trajectory shift and support transition, and to strengthen international cooperation and measure progress. The first thing we have to do is, in order to promote green growth, is reform and phase out environmentally harmful subsidies and inefficient regulatory interventions. And secondly, we have to remove that the tariff and non-tariff barriers to environmental goods and services. And also we have to strengthen policy coherence. In climate change agenda, the government mobilized a lot of the policy mix. So if there's some conflict and there's inefficiencies in the policy mix, then we cannot get greener growth. So policy coherence is very important. Second one is to promote trajectory shift. So government adopt a mix of policies, market instrument or non-market instrument also. And the mostly important is government give a very clear price signals to the market. And also government stimulate innovation and the diffusion of greener technologies. And need to encourage measures for greener consumption and develop innovative financial mechanisms. When we are going in transition, there is a couple adverse, distributional effect come. So we need to minimize distributional effect of the associated structural change, and also we need to upgrade workers' skill and competence through the education and special training programs. And also, international cooperation is very important to attain, greener growth. we need to promote technology transfer internationally and R&D cooperation. And we built partnership and cooperation between key players, industries, and government and NGOs, national level or international level. And also, we need address potential competitive issues. Many industry are concerned about competitiveness. If they try to reduce carbon emission, then they will pay a lot of money, then they can lose potential competitiveness. So we have to minimize this kind of potential competitiveness. And we have to improve financing mechanisms for global public good. And also, we have to promote sustainable greener growth, and especially we have to address development and poverty issues. In order to promote and strengthen the greener growth, we need to a concrete measure. I mean, we have to measure the progress, then we can attain the greener growth. So we need a new accounting method, and we need a reporting framework, and we need greener growth indicators. And also, we need effective communication skill to share with climate actors. Now we, sorry about that. Now we pinpoint on investment in low carbon technology. Low carbon technology is a key element in addressing promoting greener growth. So, well-tailored government policies based on market system is crucial to promote investment in low carbon tech. There's 8 enablers to promote investment in clean technology. You see here, I think the most important enabler is strong and clear price signals. Without strong price signals, not many industries cannot, does not invest low carbon tech. And also, energy market is very important. Without, efficient energy market, then we cannot promote investment in technology. And also we remove energy subsidies. And also government give long-term and predictable, consistent regulation. Also, the financial support is very important. In lunchtime, many speakers discuss about the financial crisis, and also now is financial situation is not good for investment. So financial support to research and development, and further to demonstration and deployment. So we need finally commercial viability is very important, right? And also, we have to build the capacity, in institutional capacity and business sector capacity. So we need many creative programs to build the capacity. And the partnership is very important. Sang-Hyuk Kim already mentioned about that. Is partnership between industries, partnership between government and industry, and partnership between national level. Okay, the last thing I have to mention is POSCO's vision for greener growth. POSCO announced that POSCO will reduce 90% of carbon emission per ton of steel production by 2020. So its ultimate goal is to become global greener growth leader. That is POSCO's vision. So POSCO contribute to 14 million tons of CO2, of social CO2 reduction by high efficiency steel products and green business. In order to do that, POSCO invest $7 billion in low CO2 emission technology and green businesses by 2018. Also, we measure that the POSCO can, create 87,000 jobs in green-related sectors. POSCO pursue the greener steel in the greener steel company using the innovative technology. Ultimately, POSCO developed hydrogen steel making is reduce the CO2 dramatically. And we first start from Finex process. So in these days, POSCO may build Finex process in China. And in midterm, we develop POSCO basic oxygen process and also continuous casting endless mill. These two technology will reduce CO2 emission 6%. This is just measured by CO2 emission per tons of iron. Okay. As you know, that promote investment in low carbon technology. The financial sector is very important. As I said, commercial viability is the crucial factor. So how to increase commercial viability is the main key to get greener growth, I think. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon. During my brief remarks, I'd like to help explain what I see as the optimal role for government in aiding the development of clean energy companies. But first, as a former U.S. representative and certainly as someone who's heavily involved in the U.S. climate change and clean technology areas, I need to offer my compliments to our hosts here in South Korea. There can be no doubt that South Korea has captured the imagination of American policymakers. It indeed created quite a stir in Washington, D.C. when your government announced a commitment of $80 billion for the promotion of green growth industries. Just like that, South Korea put the world on notice that clean energy was no longer the exclusive domain of the United States, of China, of Japan. In fact, you cannot speak about clean energy in the United States without framing it, if you will, as a race between the United States and Asia. South Korea, Japan, China, each of these countries as in whole have already surpassed the United States when it comes to the production of virtually every single clean technology. Earlier this year, in my president's State of the Union address, he time and time again spoke about the importance of the world's clean energy race, saying that it was unacceptable for the U.S. to accept second place. And with that, of course, my nation's clean energy race began. The United States, of course, enjoys healthy competition, and already this clean energy race has opened America's doors like never before to foreign clean tech companies. It's, of course, important to the United States, but it's also important to the rest of the world because this clean technology movement not only will create entirely new industries, it will create hundreds of thousands of new jobs, but it will also make each of our nations much, much more secure. And let's be candid. Both the United States and South Korea import too much energy, right? We need to improve that situation. And thankfully, each of our nations are making great progress as we push to lessen the quantity of fuel specifically that we import. In my mind, while many spoke of the year 2009 as a difficult year for clean technology, in my mind, 2009 was both a necessary and pivotal year for clean technologies because it finally focused the world's attention not just on the carbon aspect, not just on the being green to help the environment, but it focused people's attention on the business case, right? The business case, the economics behind clean tech investing. You know, with many of our nations still reeling in the wake of this global economic crisis, governments the world over were forced to prioritize their spending on industries which showed the greatest economic potential. And in fact, it was during that same time period that we saw South Korea break ground on the world's largest solar farm, right? That we saw South Korea come out with what will be our world's largest tidal power plant. That we saw South Korea come out and double its investment in core technologies. This is all exceptional news. But one thing that we must remember is that we are now coming to a period in clean tech's growth cycle where many of these technologies will truly be tested. The first half of the race was relatively easy going. All our nations had to do was invent. But now, to really gain traction, we need these companies to truly achieve enough scale so that they can realistically compete against their fossil energy alternatives. So for the balance of my remarks today, I'm going to focus on this challenge of scaling companies. Now, to truly scale these companies, we must focus each of our nation's efforts on the commercialization of clean technologies. We must also remind our investment community that the business models that they use for information technology, that the business models that they use for biotechnology just will not translate to the clean energy space. The quantity of capital in this space is enormous. And of course, the payout occurs over a much longer period of time. You see that, for example, in the cost of the second or third microprocessor, right, is quite small. Yet the cost of the second or third wind turbine is, in fact, quite large. It's just a different area. And within the clean tech space, this difference has led to a financing void, a lack of finance when it comes to scaling, and it's a void that I call the commercialization valley of death, right? This commercialization valley of death, and it's much wider for clean tech than it ever was for information technology or for biotech. And one of the questions we're seeking to answer today is, what is the optimal role for government in this rapidly changing space? Well, in my view, the optimal role for public sector involvement, right, for government involvement, is in tackling that commercialization challenge, bridging, if you will, that commercialization valley of death. And I think for government, there are three primary areas where government can play a role. First, government must act as a standard bearer. Second, government must act as an incubator. And third, and I think maybe most importantly, government must act itself as a consumer, right? Government must practice what it preaches. So let's begin by discussing standards. There's perhaps no greater area than standards for government to make a difference. We all know that government will never outspend the private sector when it comes to the clean energy space, but private sector investors desperately need predictable policy from their government. So government can help by setting predictable performance bars for their industry. In the United States, one example of that is with our fuel efficiency standards, both for cars and for trucks. For decades, those standards were set at a very, very low level, and it's of little surprise with low standards that American automakers were producing automobiles and trucks that were highly inefficient. Yet for the first time in 2007, a bipartisan United States Congress finally raised those standards for the first time in 30 years. We saw President Obama just last year raise them once again. And now we're beginning to see some of the fruits of that government action. Not only are the world's automakers responding by producing increasingly fuel-efficient cars and trucks, but we're starting to see the very real emergence of viable electric vehicles. In fact, it's been shown to me that we'll have about 24 new types of electric cars coming out and hitting showroom floors over the next 2 years. Fuel-efficient vehicles once were a niche market before government standards were raised, but government action made vehicle efficiency mainstream. We see the same thing when the government establishes voluntary, not mandatory, but voluntary standards, much like our nation's Energy Star program for appliances. Today, every U.S. appliance maker wants that government star of approval. And you see that if you walk into any home improvement store, you walk down the aisles, it will be difficult to find some appliance that doesn't carry that yellow government seal of approval. So whether voluntary or whether mandatory, government standards play a critical role and have a significant impact on the commercialization, the scale-up of these technologies. Now, the second role that the government can play and that they need to play when it comes to commercialization is as an incubator. Now, most governments, of course, participate in the technology innovation cycle. In the United States, we have our university system. We also have 17 national laboratories. These national laboratories are truly national treasures to those of us in the United States, but they suffer from a lot of the same challenges that other research and development institutions face, meaning that many of our nation's scientists will invent with blinders on to the true market need. And also, when it comes to licensing, they will develop very long, bureaucratic licensing processes. While at the Department of Energy, we needed to make sure that our labs were inventing technology which was relevant to the market. We also needed to lessen the amount of time that it took to license those patents. To achieve these goals, we started linking up our business community with our scientific community, and we called on our nation's finest early-stage venture investors to participate in what we called our Entrepreneur in Residence program. And these entrepreneurs in residence at our national labs were asked to do three things. One, to work with our nation's scientists to identify promising technologies. Two, they were asked to help build the business plans around these technologies and finally help push these technologies to market. Last week I was in D.C. and commercialization continues to be a big push both at the Department of Energy and throughout the national laboratories. Now, in fact, President Obama and Energy Secretary Chu have just elevated an Office of Commercialization where they seek to have more of the scientists get closer to the business community so that they can keep their fingers on the pulse of market need. Now, to streamline the licensing process and to encourage investors to take a more active role in government, we set out to do three things. First, we replaced what had been our government's license agreement, right, very long and bureaucratic. We threw that out and got a very small, user-friendly license agreement. Second, we created a fund, a government fund not for continued research and development, but instead for creating prototypes and business plans, the types of things that our investment community need before investing their valuable early-stage dollars. And then finally, we created a technology showcase event where we brought in our nation's leading scientists so that they could meet one-on-one with our nation's leading investors and find ways to better work together. So by streamlining our license, by increasing investor involvement with our scientific community, we started to shed some light on America's inventions and began to move more of that technology to market. Now, this brings us to the final and what I view as another crucial role for government, and that is that government must act as a consumer of clean technology. In the United States, like elsewhere, it's your government who consumes the most energy, right? And 1 year alone, the U.S. government spent $25 billion on both fuel and electricity. And due to that buying power, the government can act and move markets like no other institution. Knowing this, the Department of Energy set goals that were ambitious yet achievable to use both more renewable energy and more energy efficiency in our own facilities. When it came to energy efficiency upgrades, we used what we call energy savings performance contracts. These are special contractors. These are special contracts where the contractors are only paid if the technology does what they say it will do. When it came to renewable energy, we sought to site more on federal land. One example was an Air Force base in Nevada, one of our states, where we put in a 14-megawatt solar PV facility. To give some idea of scale, during that same year, China in whole put in 20 megawatts of solar. So by siting more technology on federal lands, by installing energy-efficient lighting and controls in our buildings, we are not only saving our nation money, but we are, as we heard before, inducing private sector's involvement in being part of the solution and being part of the market. So ladies and gentlemen, it is absolutely my distinct honor to be with you here today, and I look forward to your questions.